Today, we're diving into a story that was almost completely lost to time. It's about one of ancient Egypt's most powerful pharaohs, a ruler so successful and so unconventional that their successors literally tried to pretend they never existed. So our story starts here, with what basically looks like an ancient crime scene. See all that damage on the temple wall? That's not just thousands of years of wear and tear. No, that was done on purpose. It was a systematic effort to destroy a pharaoh's name, their image, their entire identity, hacking them out of stone to erase them from history. And that really is the central mystery here, isn't it? Who was this ruler? And maybe even more importantly, why? Why, after what seems to have been a really successful reign, would someone go to all that trouble to make the world forget they were ever there? To figure that out, we kind of have to become archaeological detectives. We've got to piece together clues that someone intentionally tried to hide. And our investigation starts with a puzzle that completely stumped the very first Egyptologists. So get this, Jean-Francois Champollion, the brilliant guy who deciphered the Rosetta Stone, he's translating all these ancient inscriptions, and he keeps running into something really, really weird. He sees a king, depicted with the whole pharaoh look, the fake beard, the male clothes, but all the grammar, the nouns and the verbs describing this king, are feminine. It's like the writing was talking about a queen. This was so confusing, they actually called it the Hatshepsut problem. Well, the solution to this whole puzzle turns out to be one of the boldest power grabs in all of ancient history. Because, as it turns out, the bearded king and the mysterious queen were the exact same person. Okay, so how did she pull this off? It was a very careful, very strategic path. She was born a princess, daughter of a pharaoh. Then she marries her half-brother and becomes the great royal wife, which is a hugely powerful position. But then her husband dies, leaving his heir, who's just a little kid. So she steps in as regent, the person ruling in his place. And then, about 7 years into that gig, she makes her move. She just declares herself pharaoh, becoming the senior ruler. And you can really see her strategy right here in these statues. To rule in what was absolutely a man's world, she had to play the part. So her early statues look feminine. But later, she adopts the whole pharaoh uniform. The kilts, the muscular body, and yeah, even the ceremonial fake beard. It wasn't about denying that she was a woman. It was about embodying the very male office of king. But a new look wasn't going to be enough. She needed a justification that no one could argue with, so she launched this amazing propaganda campaign. She had the story of her divine birth carved right onto the walls of her temple. The story claimed that the great god Amun was her actual father, and that it was his divine will that she should rule. It was a political masterstroke. So she fought her way to the throne. The big question is, what kind of ruler was she? Well, her reign lasted for nearly 22 years, and it wasn't just about her surviving. It was a time of peace, a ton of prosperity, and just incredible artistic achievement. For starters, Hatshepsut was one of the most productive builders in all of Egyptian history. She kicked off hundreds of construction projects, leaving her mark all over the place. She added massive new sections to the Great Temple of Karnak, built beautiful shrines like the Red Chapel, and put up a pair of obelisks that were, at the time, the tallest in the world. But this was her masterpiece, her mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahari. Just look at it. The way its terraces seem to just rise right out of the cliffs, it's a work of genius. It's so elegant and grand, it still absolutely wows people today. This was a monument to her power. And she wasn't just about buildings, she was great for the economy. She got vital trade routes back up and running and financed a now legendary sea expedition to the mysterious Land of Punt. Her ships came back just packed with gold, ivory, and, the most amazing prize of all, live myrrh trees, which she actually had planted at her temple. So peace, prosperity, incredible building projects, by any measure you want to use, her reign was a huge success. Which, of course, brings us right back to that big mystery. Why would anyone want to erase a pharaoh like that? Well, this practice actually has a name. It's a Latin phrase, damnatatio memoria, which means condemnation of memory. Now, for the ancient Egyptians, this was the ultimate punishment. They believed that saying someone's name was what kept their soul alive for eternity. So erasing a name wasn't just politics, it was an attempt to kill someone's soul. And the campaign against Hatshepsut was one of the most thorough in history. And this wasn't some chaotic mob action. It was a planned, systematic process that didn't even start until decades after she was dead. They smashed thousands of her statues and buried the pieces in pits. They carefully chiseled her name out of every inscription they could find. At Karnak, they even built new walls just to hide her gigantic obelisks from sight. So who done it? For a long time, the main suspect was her stepson, Thutmose III, acting out of revenge. But the timing's a little off. The erasure didn't start until late in his reign. So now the leading theory is that it was a cold political calculation, not personal hate. He may have erased her simply to create a neat, unbroken line of male succession from his father to himself. Another possibility is that it was actually his son, Amenhotep II, who maybe felt his own claim was a bit weak and needed to get rid of the precedent of a powerful female ruler. For almost 3,000 years, the plan to erase her pretty much worked. She was almost completely forgotten. But history has a funny way of coming back, and her rediscovery has finally put her back in her rightful place. Part of that rediscovery involves the modern-day hunt for her actual body. And back in 2007, Egyptologists thought they'd had a huge breakthrough. They had this mummy found in a pretty unremarkable tomb, and it was missing a tooth. Now, they also had a small box with Hatshepsut's name on it, and inside was a single molar. The gap in the mummy's jaw was a perfect match. It really looked like the case was closed. But, and this is a final twist worthy of her story, that identification is now seriously in doubt. A closer look revealed the tooth was a lower molar, but the mummy was missing an upper one, so not a match. And just like that, she slipped away from us again. Her final resting place is still a secret. And yet, even if we never find her, what we do know is just profound. The famous Egyptologist James Henry Breasted called her the first great woman in history of whom we are informed. Just think about that. A master builder, a brilliant diplomat, and a king who broke every single convention of her time. You know, her story really makes you think about history itself. It's not just a record of what happened. It's about who gets to tell the story, whose monuments are left standing, and whose names get chipped away from the walls. Hatshepsut's legacy was so close to being buried forever. It really does make you wonder, doesn't it? How many other stories like hers are out there, just waiting to be rediscovered?